Hi. Okay, so welcome to the. I guess it was supposed to be the 20,000 subscriber Q&A video, and it honestly looks like by the time this video goes up, we'll actually be at 30K. So, hi everyone. This is a little overwhelming. Yeah. So I was gonna do a whole big on-camera shoot, but I figure instead I'm just gonna do this in audio and. I'm gonna show some Blender stuff that I don't normally get to do. Like I do a lot of Blender effects for my videos. I think I'm just gonna sit and design, make a video of designing something in the background, and I'll record that later. I don't actually know what I'm gonna make, so, but I can either show the process or just show some of the results of the things that I've made in the past, and hopefully that's fun. And we'll enjoy it. And I'll put some in a retro wave or something. I'm listening to that right now while I'm recording this, so maybe I'll put some of that on somewhere. So, cool. Let's get started. I started this channel in February of last year, right before the pandemic hit, and it was pretty much just under 1,000 subs for most of that time. And then right around March 2021, it just I guess the algorithm was pleased. I sacrificed enough lambs to it or something, and it sort of took off. So a lot of people have shown up very quickly, and I'm still a little overwhelmed by it. But hi, thank you, everyone. Okay, so first off, I'm going to answer some questions from Patreon because several people found my Patreon when I just set it up and put a link in the description without announcing it anywhere, and you guys are the coolest. So I'm going to start with you guys. Thelon asks, what is your favorite part of the Animorphs universe that gets mentioned in one book and then never again? Oh god, that's kind of tough. So I'm really in love with the space ants from In the Time of Dinosaurs, which is an amazing title, by the way, In the Time of Dinosaurs. I love this idea that ants, this just obnoxious, terrible species on Earth, has been here since the time of dinosaurs, but also they were brilliant. They were a sentient race. They were intelligent, and we just sort of squished them with a big rock. I don't know. I feel like they're the kind of species that could have come back later on. I don't know. At least a few space ants survived. I keep calling them space ants like they're not from Earth originally. Like they're not more native to Earth than humans are, actually. That's a little colonialist of me. Anyway, did humans colonize? I guess that's not really accurate. Whatever. Also, I want Nanook, the polar bear, to come back. Nanook deserves more. So, okay. Shawn Malloy asks, have you ever played/had any interest in TTRPGs like D&D? I think you would be an amazing DM. Thank you, Shawn. That's a wonderful compliment, I know, because most of the people I know who DM games are magicians, story magicians. I have DM'd one Pathfinder game, and I think I got a little overwhelmed by it because I tried to write everything. I looked up on Pathfinder wikis to get information about the old gods or whatever. I took some existing world building, but I still tried to write an entire campaign, and I didn't realize until I was already through writing several sessions that that's not how other people do it. I think I might have peaked there. Yeah, right. I didn't realize that's not how other people do it. Ooh, my audio is quite that's peaking quite a lot. So, but yeah, I didn't realize that's not how other DMs do it. I didn't realize that there were books. I came at it very backwards. I had never actually played a game until I DM'd for the first time. So I got a little burnt out on it. That's not to say I would never do it again. I kind of really like the idea, but it's one of those things that I know because of the way I approach projects, I'm going to get so into it that it's going to take up most of my time. And right now, videos are actually my main side project. When I am done with my day job, this is what I spend most of my time on, to the same extent that I would DM games. So, you're dead on that I would be interested in it. I think for my mental health, I probably shouldn't be just yet. Okay, next up, Silvacor asks, what is the best way to get started with Blender? Any tutorials you'd recommend? So I kind of came at it with a very hodgepodge mentality. I think Blender has a high learning curve, but I think it's lower. The curve is lower than it looks. So you see a mountain in the distance, you're like, whoa, that mountain's huge, and then you get up to it and you're like, wait, I could totally climb this, it's like a small mountain, like Stone Mountain in Georgia. It's not actually that big. The problem is that there are very few resources that will teach you everything you need to know. Like, if you try to look up tutorials online, a lot of them assume some basic knowledge that you might not have. So if you have no basic knowledge at all with anything Blender, anything 3D, I'd recommend going with Blender Guru. There is a loud siren going off outside. I don't know how long that was audible. Oh well. Okay, so if you have no existing 3D knowledge or anything, if you have no pre-existing knowledge, Blender Guru is a great place to start. Blender Guru does very in-depth tutorials on very basic things like how to make a chair or a couch or the rite of passage for everybody, the donut. The donut is the thing everybody's made. Everybody has to go through it at some point because it's like a 16-part course that will teach you everything, all the shortcuts, all the navigation tools, everything. So you get a very firm grasp of the basics. Now, once you get a handle for how to move through the program, there are a lot of tutorial channels out there. CG Matter does extremely good ones on like realistic looking visual effects and motion tracking, especially if you want to do footage that you're going to like shoot with a camera and bring into some special effects programs. CG Matter is really good for that. Ian Hubert is just an amazing filmmaker who also shows how to do just really advanced stuff, and he just rambles it off like it's nothing. And you're like, wait, I have no idea what you just said, but I learned a lot. For something that's more visually oriented, like if you want to do motion graphics or whatever, Ducky 3D is amazing. Ducky 3D is amazing for motion graphics. He's got a lot of tutorials that are like, sci-fi, abstract kind of designs, and he shows you a lot of like really basic things that you can learn that like it sort of incidentally teaches you things like texturing or materials or lighting. It's all really good, and he usually does stuff in Eevee, which is the simpler render engine that you could probably run on your laptop. I'd also recommend trying like daily art challenges. Like if you've ever seen one of those challenges, it's like for this month everyone's going to draw something in a theme. I actually practiced a lot by doing some of those in Blender. Like the community was doing them by drawing in a notebook or something, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it in Blender and share some of that, and I learned a lot of artistic expression there. But the thing to keep in mind is that like Blender is a million things all at once. It's a motion tracking app. It's good for graphic design, for modeling, for architecture, for visual effects. It's a lot of things. So rather than just trying to learn Blender, try to start with like a thing you want to do. Try to start with a thing you want to make and find how to make that in Blender, and that'll give you a good starting point. Okay, I'm going way too long on these questions. I really like talking about Blender though. Okay, so Brian Cook asks, what got you started in pursuing your careers in writing and YouTube? Both are kind of like, I've got an affinity for problem solving. Like I got my first like really good job at Lifehacker back in, God, was it 2012, 2013? It's been a while. And I got there because I read the site. I read a lot of, like, I would just like Google how to solve a problem, and Lifehacker would come up. And so I'd say, you know what, I like this site. I'm going to keep reading it. And then I ended up in the comment threads, and I would just make 15 long paragraph comments, the kind that annoy everybody. But eventually one of the editors was like, hey, do you want to just write the articles? Actually, I guess I technically got started at Android Police first and then went to Lifehacker. But yeah, I just sort of like fell into it through there because I really liked finding problems to solve and solving them. And then in YouTube was kind of born out of that. Like I'd initially sort of wanted to get into filmmaking when I was younger, and I didn't really have an option for it. There was no path for that. I was aware that YouTube existed. I was aware that was like I knew about the site, but I don't think there wasn't such a thing as a YouTube career yet. So I just fell into writing, and over time I started to like watch more things on YouTube. I started to watch a lot of video essayists and whatnot, and I'd always had like a passion for making videos and making I guess film. It's not really filmmaking that I'm doing yet, but I always had a passion for that because that industry is also problem solving. They're both problem solving. It's just, how do you have the thing you want to do and you need a way to do it. How do you do it? And both of them are just processes of problem solving. So I think it was a natural transition to go from writing a lot of explainers and guides in my day job to saying, okay, I really want room to do more of that. I want more space to do that. And so video essays give me a lot more room to explain things that would be way too in-depth for an article. Like I can maybe, if I'm catchy enough with it, get people to read 1,000 words, 1,500 words, 2,000 if it's really good. But I've written, God, I think my Animorphs script was like 9,000 words. You wouldn't sit down and read, well, some people would sit down and read a 9,000 word article on Animorphs, but most people wouldn't. But you would watch a video that long, which is what's wild to me. Like what blew my mind is when I started watching videos that were 20, 30 minutes, an hour long. A few videos were like 2 hours long, and I was like, I'm engaged this whole time, and you're telling me other people watch this too? Like, no one had told me that was an option. So I kind of just decided that I wanted to do it, and then like 2 years later, I actually did it. I've had a couple people say, like, where are the rest of your videos? Like, and which is an amazing compliment that I still feel very humbled to get. But the answer is, I never published them. I was researching and studying and brushing up on my skills on how to make videos before I started publishing them. So you'll never see my embarrassing past. Okay, so Robert Green asks, are you planning on doing any more 3D printing type videos? I thought the Small Soldiers video was hilarious, and I'd love to see some similar videos. First off, thank you. I really appreciate that, because the Small Soldiers video was like one of my personal favorites, even though I don't think I nailed that. So I appreciate that compliment. I think I should have just committed harder to the satire on that one. To answer your question, I would love to do more of them. I'm just not sure how. Like, that one was such a fluke. I was just like sitting rewatching Small Soldiers, and I saw the 3D printing process, and I was like, wait a second, no, I know what that is. I recognize that. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I was like, wait a second, I know a lot of this stuff. So like, I think I stumbled onto a movie that had a very unique collection of tech things that I was just barely familiar enough with to explain, but not familiar enough with to do, which I thought was very funny. I thought it was extremely funny to make a video where I set out to do something I knew I was going to fail at. So like that, if that happens again, yes, like I'd love to do that. I don't totally know how, like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't have, there's no other movie like that I could talk about. I don't think there's, I know there must be some kind of like technical project. I've done a lot of Arduino writing for no one that would ever read it, but like I've done a lot of projects and stuff, so like maybe and maybe I could do something more on 3D printing. I'd need to find like the right project for it, if that makes sense. Thelon again asks, what movies do you have the most fun rewatching? So my rewatch movies are interesting because I tend to rewatch a lot of movies while I'm working. Like I'll either have a second monitor set up with a movie playing in the background. I don't tend to like sit down and rewatch movies too much. If I was gonna sit down and rewatch a movie, God, it's got to be Lord of the Rings. Like, obviously, Lord of the Rings, the extended edition, is just one movie, and you just sit down and watch it, like on a Saturday or something. That's like, I'm deeply in love with that movie, but I don't tend to rewatch that very much because it's not something I can put on in the background. For movies I put on in the background, one of my favorites is Your Name. It's an anime film by Makoto Shinkai. Fun thing about doing this with audio is I can look stuff up and you have no idea that I just Googled all this stuff. I totally know this off the top of my head. But it's a beautiful movie. It's got fantastic music in the background, and like, I watched it in the theaters and it was just an emotional gut punch. And there's a part in the movie that is so gut-wrenching that I can be working on something. I can be writing, I can be editing or something, and I can have that movie on in the background. And at a specific point in the movie, when the movie cuts out, just boom, I will tune back in and be crying immediately. Like, it was that emotionally resonant. So that's just a fun thing to do. I also, like, God, when I've rewatched it, it's got a lot of depth to it. I like movies where, like, every time you watch them, you find something new out about them. Like, I think Knives Out is one that I've been rewatching a lot recently, because that one, you do pick up on so many details when you watch it again. I am admittedly like a huge MCU buff, and I think part of it is that I will notice details that like one movie will do and then another movie will pick up. The bit where Nebula plays a game with Iron Man in Endgame, and like she wins a little flick football game or whatever it's called, and like she like has an emotional reaction to that is like so deeply tied to her character from Guardians 2, where like her whole conflict with Gamora is that she kept trying to win games which were, you know, really fights, battles. She always lost, and when she did lose, it was dangerous, and she never really won. And so like to her, it meant a lot to win a game and to be treated with sportsmanship, and it's like nothing. Like it's not even brought up in the movie except like in her facial expressions, and I love picking that stuff out. So finally, from the Patreon, Silvacor asks, how do you feel about the storytelling in Fallout beyond the main plot lines? So, confession, I haven't played most Fallout games. I actually, like, I don't know where I was around the time that they were coming out, but I just missed them up until, like, a few years ago. Like, the very first Fallout game where I even knew about the Fallout franchise was Fallout 4. That is on me. There were a lot of years of my life where I just was not culturally plugged in. So Fallout 4 was like my introduction to the series, and that kind of sucks. Like, it kind of sucks for Fallout 4 to be your first Fallout game. But I do know what I loved about it was the ambient storytelling. Like, you could just go into a random building and find a computer with something that, you know, it's got one page of dialogue, but it just breaks your heart because like someone put the time and effort into like imagining all the details of this world and all the characters are in it and what they experience, and some of them are very tragic backstories. Like it's got a very like for sale baby shoes kind of vibe, in that it makes you feel something very quickly without being a more conventional narrative, if that makes sense. So I love that. I feel like I have a responsibility, though, to go back and play some of the better Fallout games, because Fallout 4's main quest line is it's not very good. Okay, so that was the Patreon questions. Thank you especially to everyone who is supporting me over on Patreon. Like, I just got the Patreon set up, and already a number of people have shown up. I cannot tell you how much that means to me. I am a freelancer, so regular income isn't a thing. So people committing ahead of time to supporting me is kind of emotionally overwhelming. So I really appreciate that. And if you want to sign up, there's a link in the description. Okay, so next up, I got some questions from both YouTube, the community post, and Twitter. Let's see. Renato Corvaro asks, is Animorphs the best? This is the one time that I wish I was doing this on camera so you could see the look on my face. I'm smiling. Yes, it is. Actually, you know what though? Like, I know that I've been a fan of Animorphs for a very long time, but I also feel like there were book series around that time that tended to get over. What I really want to revisit, I don't know if there's much cultural memory for this to justify a video, but I remember the My Teacher is an Alien series being kind of formative for me. Like, it gave me a lot of perspectives at the time that I'd never been exposed to, like just like the way technology interacts with our culture or something. Because I think one of the subplots was that one of the subplots was that an alien came to Earth and gave Earthlings TV, and that derailed civilization. But it wasn't just that they got TV or maybe something else more than just TV. But basically, it was like they introduced technology too soon, and we got too much of it too fast for us to really be able to adapt to it. Like, it was too difficult to really, for an entire species to process that much technology that fast. And this was written before like smartphones and stuff. There's actually a device that the aliens have, and when the ship's like, one of the kids goes up to an alien ship, and he's given this foldable slab that when you unfold it, it's just one big screen, and it's got access to all the information on the entire ship. And I remember thinking at the time, like, that is amazing. That's unfathomable. And now it's like the Galaxy Fold. It's seriously like the Galaxy Fold or something. Like, it just exists. You can just go buy one. Oh my god. Like I remember at the time thinking that would be a fundamental shift in society like that. Like, I don't even know what a world would be like where you could have one of those. And now we all do, aside from the folding part, we all have one of those. Like, most people, I should say, most people have some device, some screen, and most of them are portable, where you can just get information from anywhere on there. And the moral of that whole story was that, you know, if everybody got exposed to that way too quickly, it would screw up civilization because we just wouldn't be able to handle it too much too fast. So anyway, there's internet Nazis now. I should edit that out. I don't know if I'm gonna. Okay. Gururu96 asks, what are those pictures behind you? They look cute, probably. They are cute. Those are... I'm assuming you mean the most recent video. If you're talking about the Sherlock video. A friend of mine, Kate Logan, also known as Art Attack, has this really adorable shop where she makes, like, Lisa Frank / Satanist vibes kind of art. It's just, all of it's just beautiful, and it's like adorable creepy. I've been subscribed to her Patreon for a while, and she sends out monthly postcards with one of her prints on, like just a postcard size print. So I got a whole, like, I've been doing it long enough that I got a whole display of them, and I love it. Okay. James Frank asks, can we get more Animorphs videos? You bet. Josh asks, are you going to do more board / dice game scene breakdowns? Both those videos were really good. First off, thank you. Secondly, sorry to hear about your loss at the Josh fight, unless you were the winner, in which case, what's up, bud? And yes, I kind of love doing these. These are probably one of the more fun ones I get to do, because I get to do the thing I love doing, where I obsess over one scene. And like, I specifically like searching out ones that are overwritten, and what I mean by that, I know I said that in the Sherlock video, is what I mean by that is I like ones that are like movies, but especially scenes like this that have like too many layers. I don't mean they're brilliant and I'm the only one who can understand them. What I mean is, like, honestly, y'all should have dialed it back a little bit. Like, you should have either had the World War II thing going on, or you should have had the chess thing going on, or you should have had the financial thing going on, or you should have had the literal giant chess. Like, pick 2 or 3 of your favorite things and do that. That's what you should have done. Like, those are the scenes I like, because they do sort of give you that sense of, like, you can get more out of it the more you go back to it, but also because they give me something to break down. So yes, I want to do more of those. I've got a couple options I can do. I'm pretty sure I know the next one I want to do. I will take as many suggestions as anybody can give me. If you know of a board game scene or even just any scene in a movie that you think is worth spending way too much time on, at some point I'm going to have to do something other than board game scenes, because I don't think there are that many board game or even gambling scenes in movies, and of those, I don't think they're all worth talking about. But yes, as much as I'm able, I would love to do that. And I am pretty sure I know what the next one's going to be. All right. Arash Yazdani, very sorry if I pronounced that wrong, asked, so I'm curious to hear your take on Discworld and Pratchett's writing, if you're into those stuff at all. I have not read Discworld, unfortunately. An interesting thing that will probably become more apparent about me as I do more videos is that I didn't grow up with the same kind of media as other people did. Like, I wasn't very plugged in to what people were into. I wasn't very exposed to, like, unless it just happened to come on, like Nickelodeon, or unless it just happened to be at a Scholastic bookstore. I was very susceptible to whatever a big company wanted to target to children. Like, that is what was available to me. I didn't have, a lot of, like, any older mentor saying, no, what you really need is this good literature. I'm assuming that's what Discworld is. I don't actually know. I will say I've seen The Hogfather. Is it a mini-series, the movie adaptation, TV movie, something like that? I've seen Hogfather, and it's great. I enjoyed that. I like the bit where it gives the child a sword. That was hilarious. But unfortunately, I'm not familiar enough with Pratchett's work to comment on it, other than to say that if you did get to read Pratchett's writing, everyone I know that has ever read Pratchett's writing seems to enjoy it. But in general, if you get to read anything that wasn't, I'm not even gonna qualify that. If you get to read anything growing up, take time to appreciate it, because, like, it's not always a given that you personally would get exposed to that thing that you like that's formative for you. So regardless of what someone else's opinion is of it, enjoy the things that you enjoy and grew up on, and even if they seem silly, you should treasure them if they meant something to you. So, okay. Red Citadel asks, favorite fictional cannibal? I don't know. What are some cannibal? I need to look this up. What are the list of fictional cannibals? Barracuda for Patrick Bateman? Like, from American Psycho? Did he eat people? Did I just miss that? Is that just the book? I don't know. Yeah, okay, I guess he ate people in the novel. I didn't know he was a cannibal. Who else? Who else eats people? Hulk? Hulk's a cannibal? When did Hulk eat people? I'm just reading the Wikipedia. It just says, oh, it's the ultimate more. Okay, it's the ultimate version of Hulk. he devours his farm coworkers for making fun of Banner being a vegan. Hulk, you are not helping, dude. All right. By extremely brief research, I'm going to conclude that Ultimate Hulk eating people because they made fun of Bruce Banner for being a vegan. That's my favorite fictional cannibal. Okay. Pleepels asks, what is your work background? So this kind of goes hand in hand with the answer to Brian Cook's question, but basically, my first real professional writing job was for Android Police back in, I'm going to date myself here, 2011, 2012. I just wrote a lot of Android news. It was just grueling work. A lot of 4 to 6 articles per day. Google would do a big event and we'd have to cover all the details. And then I moved up to Lifehacker, where it was more about explaining technology and explaining everything else. I got to do a lot of writing about mental health there. A lot of stuff that I was passionate about. God, that was such a good job. And shortly after leaving Lifehacker, a year or two after that, I just ended up going freelance. And since then, I've been writing everywhere. I've written a little bit for the New York Times Smarter Living section back. I think that's still a thing. I haven't checked if that's still a thing. I'm currently writing for Wired. I write for a few other publications. I'm very low on the totem pole at those places, but I feel very fortunate that I basically got to start at a smaller site. If you that's the way to do it. If you want to build a career in writing, online articles, online journalism, I guess, a good way to start if you don't already have the connections is just start at smaller sites to establish a presence and then work your way up. So I started at Android Police, went to Lifehacker. But yeah, so mostly just writing guides for different websites. I've always had an interest and a passion for videos, for film, but I never really had an outlet. And by I never really had, I mean, for a lot of my life I didn't have an outlet, and then for a big chunk of my life it was definitely there and I just didn't know that it was an option. I didn't know it was something that you could do with it just be a job or something. So that's why I've tried to start branching out into video essays. This still isn't my main job. It's starting to become something that I can justify spending some of my days on, but I'm still a freelancer. I still have to do my regular freelance work, writing for different websites. And I love doing that. I like being able to just say, hey, I've got an idea for an article, I'm going to write this, without it being, I have to commit to just the one type of thing I'm going to write for my entire life. But yeah, I guess that's a little bit more than just my background, isn't it? So there you go. Okay, moving on to the Twitter questions. Joe, I'm very sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Fedewa asks, besides ants, what would be the most horrifying creature to be stuck in morph as? Oh, that's a scary question. I appreciate that you say besides ants, because it's definitely ants. Ants or termites. I mean, I guess anything else with a short. By the way, just for everyone else who is not aware of Animorphs or the rules, basically in Animorphs, you can turn into any animal that you've touched for up to 2 hours. You get the morph forever, but you can, anytime you morph into it, you can stay for up to 2 hours. But if you stay longer than 2 hours, you're trapped in that body forever, and you just are that creature. Which basically means, I guess you kind of morph a fully grown version. You obviously don't start as a larva or whatever. So I guess anything with a really short lifespan would be the most scary. Imagine, because you didn't look at your watch, suddenly you're not making it to the next Marvel movie. That's scary. I think that's what's scariest to me. I'm trying to think of what else would be like really horrifying. Also anything with like really strong instincts. I know like in Animorphs, like you also have the animal brain in there with you, and the animal like has its own instincts and it wants to do the things that animals do, and some of them are easy to handle. But then like a shark, like it would be really hard to be a shark and like try to live out and try to live out a normal life, like the life you hoped you would have, while desperately needing to chase any scent of blood or whatever. Also a Taxon. Like, do not get stuck as a Taxon. Rest in peace, Arbron. Okay. Pounds Jr.? Lbs Jr.? Are you Pounds? Or is this metric? I don't know. Lbs Jr. asks, what helps you decide to make the videos you do outside of the Animorphs ones? Is it related to what your freelance work is, or is it completely opposite? It's actually exactly like I do with the Animorphs ones. It's pretty much whatever the hell I want. I think I'm gonna face a problem in the future when I just start making videos about whatever I feel like, and there's not really much of a pattern to it. Like, I've got some themes that I tend to like to talk about, like anything that I can go into a lot of detail on or dissect a lot. Like whatever I make a video about, I've got to be able to I've got to be able to sustain interest long enough to get several thousand words out and still produce the video and do a bunch of effects, because I always have to do some effects. So it's got to be something I'm really interested in. So I guess that's the filter. But outside of that, like I don't have much criteria. I prefer to do something that hasn't already been done before in the way I want to do it. Like, for example, Gotham Chess did actually explain from a chess perspective the Sherlock Holmes scene before I did. I just reused the title. I feel bad that like it sort of implies that no one's ever done it before. I'm going to keep using the title, but no, I recognize that someone else has done it before, but I didn't find anyone who went into the level of detail I did about like the cinematic story that was being told through the chess game. What Gotham Chess did was explain the chess moves and why it was a clever chess game, but what I was more focused on is how the moves in that game explained the story that was happening between Sherlock and Moriarty. So that I felt was unique enough. Animorphs has been talked to death, but I hadn't seen any really big, like, in-depth video essays that explained everything about, like summarized it for people who hadn't read it and still broke it down for people who have. I've also got a lot of videos about, like, mental health topics that are kind of waiting in the wings, because I feel very passionately that mental health topics are not very well depicted in media a lot of times. Like, my first video essay, honestly, I probably would have put off doing video essays for like another year or two if it hadn't been for the Joker video, because that was one where I was like, no, I was going to let the movie come out and people can get whatever they want out of it, and I can just like, look, it's not for me, it's fine. But then it started getting nominated for awards, and I was like, all right, I have to explain why I feel like the depiction of mental health in this movie is harmful, and what is more accurate and what is more representative. And so stuff like that I feel very strongly about doing. But honestly, that's just what it comes down to, is I'm gonna do topics where I feel strongly enough about it to continue being interested in it long enough to get the video out. Like, if I start writing a script and I go, I am just not interested in this topic, I'm probably gonna stop. Maybe in the future I'll do something more structured and more organized with like a different project, but right now my goal is that Lord Ravenscraft essays are whatever the hell I feel like, but I promise that I'm not going to feel like doing something that's super half-assed. I'm gonna make sure that like it's something that I feel passionate enough about to sustain it. I think so far the most half-assed video I've done is the Doom Eternal one, which I still felt like I had something to say there, but like I don't know that too many more videos. I don't know that I'll make too many more videos that don't have at least that level of enthusiasm and effort or more. So that's my criteria. Okay. KevlarMenace asks, what kind of bagel do you prefer and which do you despise? I'm sorry to say I don't really like bagels, so the answer to your latter question is all of them. Sorry. Deanna Ogle asks, what's some underrated career or life advice you wish you had heard sooner? I'm going to do some career advice that I definitely did receive sooner and still disregarded sometimes and still disregard to this day sometimes. Do things that you don't think you're qualified for. Apply for jobs you don't think you're qualified for. Try things you don't think you're qualified for, because first off, sometimes you are. Like someone else can decide whether or not, like if you want to apply for a job and you don't think you're perfectly qualified for it because of some technicality on the job application or whatever, like just do it anyway. Let them tell you no. Let them tell you no. Don't tell yourself no before you get started. And for everything else, like there's not always a ton of, like, the criteria you think you don't meet, most people probably won't care about. Like, when I put off doing video essays for a while because I felt like I wasn't really good enough to do them. I felt like I had so much more I needed to improve on and so much more I needed to learn how to do before I could actually do it. And I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, I think I've hit a production floor that I'm happy with. I know I can do better, but I don't think I'm doing so poorly that I will be unsatisfied with this product. And I worked a long time to get to the point where I reached that threshold where I was satisfied enough to say, okay, I think I can do this. And that was my first video, and I look back on it now, and I hate the production on it. I did not manage to focus correctly because I was just shooting alone in a room. My audio's terrible because on top of shooting with a Blue Yeti mic, which is fine. Like, it's fine to do that. That's kind of the whole point of the story, by the way. I'm going to skip to the end. The moral is it's fine. But, like, it was fine to do that, but I also wasn't mixing it very well. But I wasn't going to because I hadn't done it yet, because I hadn't gotten enough experience to know how, like, what I needed to fix. So eventually I did get better about learning audio. I finally just bit the bullet. I got some better equipment. I learned some better ways to do it. But like, that doesn't happen unless you do the thing. So even if you think you're not qualified for it, do it anyway, because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to learn. And the best that's going to happen is it turns out you were, like, just getting in your own way. Insecurity and uncertainty can really undermine what you want to accomplish in your own life if you treat things like you're not allowed to do them unless someone else tells you you already know how to do it. So give yourself that opportunity, try things, and see how they go. Finally, Deanna Ogle asks, because I know you need someone to ask this question, if one were to want to get into Animorphs, where would you recommend they start? So that's a tough one, because right now it's actually kind of hard to get the books. Like, there are ways online, and I don't think I can describe any of them for legal reasons. But if you want to buy them, like, they're still kind of expensive. You can find a lot on eBay. You can find, like, collector's sets. Oh, man. Someone on Amazon is selling the complete series for $715. My God. Yeah, getting your hands on... That's just the main series, geez. Yeah, getting your hands on the physical books is hard. Getting your hands on copies is easier. I'm sorry, I won't help with that. The audiobooks are like, I think the first 20 are on Amazon, or excuse me, on Audible, and they're kind of expensive per each. So like I wish it was cheaper to get your hands on them, because right now they're kind of outside of the retro tin set. I think the retro tin set is like normally $40. It's often on sale for like 25, and it comes with 6 books or something. But even that's a lot for how short the books are. So like, there's not a good way to get your hands on the books. So I guess find what's best for you is my safe advice. And then once you've got access to the books, I think you can probably just start from book 1 and read all the way through. If you want to experience the whole thing, read from book 1 onwards. You can find a timeline of like where the Chronicles books fit in. But my guess is you don't necessarily want to read every book. Reading them in release order is good, but there are some like reading guides out there. There was one that was like on an old Tumblr called the Sulp Nyar Pool. If I can find it, I'll put it in the description. It might be gone now. It had a pretty good list of which books were essential to the main story and which you could skip, which is kind of essential when some of the books are episodic and some of the books are like standalones that don't really do anything for the main story. So if I can find that, I'll put that in there. But just look up like reading order suggestions or something. Usually, I think the first 20, like the first half, I'm just going to keep it simple and say the first half of the books, most of them were written by K.A. Applegate. They were written by Catherine and Michael. It wasn't until the middle of the series that they started using ghostwriters. I don't actually think the books that were written by ghostwriters are bad. They were still outlined by K.A. They were still designed, like their main story beats were still planned out. I don't think they're bad. I don't think the ghostwriter books were bad, but I do think that's the era when you started to get more into the standalone episodic stories that don't really matter for the main story. And then towards the last, I forget, like 6 books or so, is when the big story starts ramping up and leading to the climax. So, but honestly, if you're just looking for a place to start with book 1 and keep reading through until you reach a point where you're not interested in the story anymore, and don't feel too bad about skipping a book if it seems like it's not grabbing your attention, because these were written like with the intention of entertaining kids on just every month. Like they were designed to entertain kids for a little while, to entertain kids for a few hours. If they're not grabbing you, just move on to the next one. But I definitely recommend, especially getting some of the first, like the early books. Personally, I recommend most of Marco's books. They're great. And that's another thing. You can just stick to the characters you're most interested in. And feel free to jump around. Like, for the most part, you're not really going to be too lost, because Animorphs does a good job of re-explaining anything that you need for people who haven't read previously. So, but yeah, I'll try to find the reading order that I use, because I remember I reread the books recently and I used that guide, and because I already knew the main story, that's what I wanted to read. It was helpful, so I'll see if I can find that and put it in the description. So, okay, I think that's it. Thank you everyone who submitted questions, especially everyone who's on Patreon and is chipping in there. Like, that helps me out so much, makes it like easier to do this more regularly as like maybe part of my main job. But mostly thanks everyone for sticking around. This has been really exciting to do. Like, I've been making these videos just mostly for myself, mostly just show that I can do it, and I didn't really expect to see this many people show up this quickly. Wasn't really sure if anyone was ever going to show up, but I'm thrilled y'all are here, and I've got at least the next year's worth of videos planned out. Hopefully I can stick to a decent schedule. I hope you like what else I've got coming up. And if you have any recommendations for board game scenes, definitely send me those. Before we go, I want to thank the patrons who are on screen right now for chipping in at the Horrifying tier or higher, and especially my top tier patrons, Bibliotechnophile, Brian Cook, Deanna Ogle, Finn Flaherty, H. Irving, Ian Fade, Robert Green, and Thelon. Thank you all so much for chipping in at the levels that you do, and pretty much everybody who's subscribes on Patreon. Y'all are the real ones. Thank you so much.